Good evening, everyone. Tonight we shall journey through time and space to a place where the morning breath freezes into frost, and the chill before dawn cuts to the bone. The year is approximately 1250, deep within the heart of England's medieval winter. You huddle beside a dilapidated cottage on the edge of a muddy village, where frost blanket all straw glint with cold, and the bristles of tethered cattle stand stiff with ice. Without warmth, you may not survive this winter. So before settling in, please take a moment to like this video. If you enjoy my work, like and subscribe, and tell me where you are and what time it is. Dim the lights, relax your shoulders, and imagine your breath turning to mist as you exhale it into the frozen dawn. You awaken to the cawing of crows. The sky, above the silent, frost minus, silvered fields a paper minus grey expanse. Through the gaps in the coarse blanket, the chill seeps into every fibre. The thatched roof crackles with frost, while the stream beyond the fence is bound in thin ice. You wonder, how did people build homes resilient enough to withstand such cold before stone walls and sturdy chimneys? Before stone walls and sturdy chimneys, most in medieval England lived within fragile shelters, born more of necessity than ingenuity. Oath, straw, timber, and fortune were their tools. Early villagers molded the land into safe nests, digging shallow pits, piling earth and mold, layering whatever materials they could gather. Shelter did not necessarily mean safety. When you plunged your hand into damp earth, that clammy chill seeped into your bones. Historians believe the earliest medieval houses in the English countryside were wattle minus and minus daub dwellings, giant curved beams forming the rib framework of the building, filled internally with a mud mixture, viscous earth, straw, and animal dung. You might trinkle your nose at the odor, yet the structure proved remarkably effective. Once dry, it repelled the biting wind, trapping warmth within and keeping death at bay. Scholars still debate how long such walls could stand before collapsing back into the earth. Remarkably, the earth beneath one's feet serves as insulation. Treading through frost and snow towards the cluster of huts, one senses the ground's transformations. Now melt where hearth fires warm the mud, while frozen patches remain untrodden. Inside, the air is thick with the scent of smoke and damp wool. There are no windows, only a small hole above the hearth for smoke to escape. The heavy soot in the air stings the eyes. On certain nights when heavy snow sealed the doors, only the faint orange glow of embers illuminated the world. Beneath the ashes, people huddled shoulder to shoulder, cupping their hands to warm the breath they exhaled. Here, one truly comprehends the miracle of surviving the winter. You might envy the wolf curled outside the door, wrapped in its own fur. Tales circulate of villages vanishing after harsh winters, thatched cottages buried save for chimney stumps. Yet life endures. Each spring they rebelled, patching with nature's gift, sadding straw to sagging roof, slapping mud over cracked walls. This resilient rhythm remains as constant as the frost itself. Early dwellings were often sunken, trapping warmth while blocking the cold wind, yet prone to flooding when snow melted. Archaeologists uncover traces of these submerged houses in ancient settlements. Their outlines like ghostly rings beneath modern soil. Whether they were warm refuges or damp nightmares remains debated. Huddled by the hearth, you listen to damp wood hissing as it burns, smoke minus laden air clinging to your garments. This is the badge of medieval survival. Fire is not merely a nuisance but a tool for living in chimney-less dwellings. Smoke whirls beneath the rafters, killing the vermin that infest thatched roofs. Villagers coughed, yet knew the smoke drove out decay and vermin. Strangely, this suffocating haze silently guarded your home. As night fell again, the temperature dropped so sharply you heard the wood protest with creaking groans. The stars appear sharper and closer, as if the world has grown fragile and brittle. You curl beneath a coarse blanket, listening to the wind scrape its fingertips along the thatched cottage's cracks. Your breath condenses into mist in the darkness, like a fleeting ghost. In this silence, you sense the faint stirrings of wisdom that spark spanning centuries, transforming huts into cottages, cottages into manors, humble campfires into grand hearths. Yet now, you are but a villager upon frozen ground, a pioneer encircled by permafrosts, the scent of earth, smoke, and damp straw clinging to your skin. You pull your cloak tighter, awaiting dawn's arrival, knowing full well that tomorrow you must find better shelter, lest you freeze to death here. The wind sighs, smoke drifts, and you hover between wakefulness and slumber, trapped within a fragile bubble of warmth, a sanctuary carved from the endless cold. The next morning, a world lay cloaked in silver, utterly silent. As you opened your eyes, the sharp scent of damp earth and lingering embers hit you. Frost clung to the inside of the walls like lace, each breath like swallowing mist. You crawl from beneath the blanket and press your hand against the clay wall, this very layer of mud that holds the hut together. It is both sturdy and fragile, like skin woven by the earth itself. Before humans learned to carve perfect stone or fire brick, they chose earth. Earth is everywhere, free and nimble, blended with straw. It becomes thick at owie, adept at trapping warmth. You scoop a handful of earth. The grit slipping through your fingers carries the lingering warmth of yesterday's embers, exuding the scent of hindman, nor the very odor of survival. Imagine hundreds of hands laboring like yours, packing earth between woven wooden slats, smoothing surfaces and patching cracks. Frost relentlessly tore open fissures, and shelter emerged not from grand design, but desperate improvisation. People built with what lay at hand, not what their hearts desired. Historians surmise these early mud walls stood several feet thick, resembling miniature cliffs more than structures. They solidified layer by layer beneath sparse winter sunlight. A single cottage required weeks to harden against wind and rain. People camped beside the unfinished huts, the light of constantly stoked fires eventually moving indoors. Traces of these earthen mounds still lie concealed beneath English villages. You hear the rhythm of labor, the patter of hands against clay, the crunch of straw beneath feet, the hum of cold wind through unfinished walls. Each sound speaks a language you already know. Build or freeze, labor or die. A curious truth persists in history: animal blood was oft unmixed into mud to strengthen it. Ox blood was prized for its binding power. Even if it darkened walls and rain and gave off a rusty scent, was this superstition or science? Scholars debate. Did it truly work, or merely let builders feel the herd spirit watching over them? You gaze up at the unfinished roof, wondering what the original builders thought when the first snow fell. The thatch is sparse, the beams askew, and cold seeps through the cracks like a living thing. Even so, it's better than sleeping out in the wilderness. Inside, smoke coils around the ceiling, staining it black like a painting of the night sky. Beneath your feet lay the rammed earth, cold yet firm. Someone had laid reeds to soften the ground. Last late summer they rustled beneath your steps, releasing a subtle sweetness like the scent of hay in a newly built house. The reeds softened the ground, rustling as you moved, carrying a faint, hay-like sweetness. When walls were freshly built, villagers would embed small talismans or shards of pottery into the clay, secret gifts offered to the house itself. Some claimed they warded off frost sprites. Others insisted they made the walls remember summer's warmth. Modern archaeologists occasionally uncover these hidden relics: childhood beads, bent nails, chicken bones trapped between layers of clay. Their meaning remains unknown, perhaps hope, perhaps habit. You watch the villagers, eldest mending the walls by torchlight. His knuckles are cracked, his breath faint, yet his movements precise. He knows the mud's firmest hue when dry, understands how to twist straw for strength. He tells you the secret lies in following the season's. Walls must rise in spring. Roofs must be finished before harvest. Repairs must be done before winter's second frost. If the timing is off, the house will leak all year round. After nightfall, the temperature plummets again. You see faint fate, or rising from the walls the day's heat escaping from the earth, exhaling its breath back into the air. The wind howls through the doorframe, and you wedge a cloth strip into the gap. You sit by the hearth, gazing into the heart of the flames, watching the fine sparks crackle and vanish, like thoughts that will never be spoken. Earthen dwellings were never meant to last. They hold a generation or two before dissolving back into the fields. That is their beauty. Homes born of the earth return to the earth, yet those who dwell within are no mere passers-by. Their stories settle into the soil, just as English villages still crouch low against the cold. Place names weigh as heavily as the earth itself. Crane, Madford, Ditchell. As you lie down at night, the fire dwindling, you begin to understand why people call this land home before they call it England. Each handful of earth that built the walls holds the memory of your body's warmth, a warm memory, a promise of life to come. Above the village, stars burn coldly within the cottage. Breaths are slow and steady, the mud walls keeping the darkness at bay. You drift into a half-minus sleep, your hair thick with damp, earth and smoky air. And for a moment, the harsh winter seems almost gentle. The sound of an axe pierces the frozen forest, heard long before any figure comes into view. Each sharp chop shakes the still air, echoing through the bare oak trees. You walk towards the sound, your boots crushing frozen leaves beneath foot. The scent of sap and cold bark fills your lungs, crisp and bitter. In these green woods, people gather. The framework of their home's timber is life itself. Without it, there are no walls, no roofs, no defense against the next blizzard. History's record that every village once had its own master carpenter, a sage who could decipher the forest. By touch alone, he knew which tree would split cleanly, which would warp and twist, and which would stand firm for decades. In an age before metal nails became commonplace, such skills were of icicle joints were formed through ingenuity rather than hardware. Wooden wedges and mortise minus tenon joints secured the huts, with a stability rivaling modern screws. As beams fell, the air hummed with labor, the crackling of splitting would giving way to cheers. You helped drag logs through the mud, their tracks set like scars in the frost. Each trunk would be planed smooth by the axe, chiseled into pillars, then hoisted into place. The rhythm was slow yet resolute, the sound of the community building itself. Plank by plank, the scent of freshly felled oak is almost sweet, mingling with sweat and the smoky warmth of the stove. A peculiar superstition holds that silence must never fall during felling. One must first speak to the tree to warn its spirit. Legend says that if felled without respect, the tree will curse the builders. Even in later times, carpenters would still tap the trunks off and whisper apologies before cutting. You picture the modest ceremony beneath snow-laden skies, words of apology rising like mist as the entire forest listens. Archaeological findings confirm medieval houses were predominantly timber-framed, their skeletons crafted from oak or elm, with chestnut occasionally used in southern counties. The mortise minus tenon joints were robust, the timber hand hewn to fit like a jigsaw puzzle. Families and neighbors would often erect entire frameworks in a single day, celebrating with feasts when provisions allowed, though such revelry was often as meagre as the thin broth in the pot. The smoky scent of roasted onions and wood drifted through the woods, reminding all that warmth demands its price. Not all timber could be harvested freely. Forest laws, especially on royal lands, were exceedingly strict. Unauthorized felling risked ruinous fines. Historians record peasants creeping into woods at night, axe handles wrapped in cloth to muffle sound, merely to steal a single roof beam. The risk was worth taking, better fine than freezing to death. Scholars debate whether England's forests vanished entirely due to human demand. Some argue half the woodlands vanished by the 12th century, while others place deforestation later, when ironworks and shipbuilding demanded fuel. Whatever the truth, Each cautious axe stroke echoes that fear of scarcity. Amidst the stumps, one senses a silent miracle even as trees fall. The forest promises renewal, where branches snap, tender shoots pierce the snow. The ancient art of coppicing allows new growth from the same rootstock. Villagers learned to harvest cautiously, allowing timber to regenerate within years. This early sustainability born not of virtue, but of desperation. By afternoon, the woodcutters stack their logs, wiping frost-flecked beards with coarse sleeve. You see your own breath mingle with as in wisps of white mist, dissolving into the pallid dawn light. Someone hums softly, the melody more a beat than a song. Heavy tool handles, worn smooth by years of youth. Each axe blow deliberate, as if carving vows into the oak. Back in the village, logs are trimmed and stacked beside half-built houses. Children dart between them, playing lords and knights among the beams. Women carry bundles of straw, their skirts stiff with frost. Dogs lie beside piles of shavings, tails curled around their noses. The air carries the scent of resonant, damp wool, a warmth within the chill. Historians note English craftsmen often reclaimed timber from old dwellings. When families relocated or storms ravaged cottages, beams were dismantled and transported to new sites. To this day, one may still find within medieval houses those timbers bearing the traces of past fires and smoke, each bematched with memories of winters endured. As dusk deepened, the final cart load of timber returned by ox-drawn cart. Wheels creaked, animals puffed clouds of steam. Frozen hollows glowed with the last rays of sunset. Upon your shoulders rested not merely the weight of the timber, but its significance, each being destined to become a future wall, a roof, the dividing line between warmth and death. You pause at the field's edge, gazing back at the forest. It stretches boundless as ink, both foe and savior. The chill seeps in anew, yet your spirit grows steadier, facing winter's grip. Builders always transform vitality into shelter. Tree by tree, the onslaught renews, but your resolve deepens. The house-builders practice humanity's enduring way of facing winter, transforming the living world, tree by tree, into shelter. You draw back the curtain and step inside. The hearth fire flickers weakly, licking at the charred wood. You hold out your palm to feel the faint warmth rising up your arm. Outside, the cold wind begins to stir. You seem to hear the forest murmuring in the night, reshaping itself. Within that murmur lies the heartbeat of medieval England, a world of timber and frost, of enduring resilience. Snowflakes begin to drift in lazy spirals, softening the village's edges. You step outside the unfinished shelter, tilting your head back to let the flakes melt upon your skin. They vanish quicker than expected, leaving only a fleeting trace of chill. Has the roof begun to sag beneath the new snow's weight? The golden thatch has faded to mottled pallor, the trial every home must endure. Architectural historians know well that medieval thatched roofs were both art and gamble. Crafted with skill, they might endure 2 or 3 decades poorly made. They could collapse at the first downpour. Running your fingers over the bundles of straw stored by the wall, you heard a faint creak. The dry, brittle stalks must be carefully selected by length, trimmed after harvest, and tightly bound to keep out moisture. As the deadline approached, the thatcher worked like a musician, layering reeds upon reeds. A subtle sweetness hung in the air, reminiscent of a hayloft in midsummer, offering strange comfort in the depths of winter. The newly laid thatch was secured with willow cord, gleaming golden in the grey light. Climbing the small ladder, you peer beneath for that charred end's web of twigs and grass stems woven so tightly, not even a mouse could slip through. Yet rain always finds its way in, each down or a test of faith. You might smile at this peculiar custom. Villagers regard cobwebs on roofs as auspicious omens, believing the silk anchors the thatch, sweeping them away. They say, invites rain indoors. So when you spot a plump little spider crawling along the eaves, you leave it be. murmuring quiet thanks as your grandmother once did. Archaeological surveys reveal that roof pitches in northern England are significantly steeper than in the south, for a simple reason. Rain and snow must flow freely. Steep roofs drain swiftly, keeping thatch dry for longer, whereas in the milder south, roofs are designed lower and thicker to withstand persistent drizzle. Each thatcher possessed unique skill-specific knotting techniques, distinctive angles of inclination rarely documented. These crafts were passed down through memory, rough fingers guiding the next generation. The work is perilous. Picture the thatcher balancing on the ridge in biting winds. Hands wind cracked. He binds each bundle of grass, called a yell, with precision, then beats it flat with a paddle to make it lie tight. The sound flows like a rhythm, almost musical, echoing across the open fields below. Someone stirs a pot of thin stew, its smoky scent drifting upwards to meet him. Church records chronicle thatched cottages consumed by fire, sometimes reduced to ashes overnight by a single spark carried on the wind. Certain parishes, fearful of such calamities, forbade open chimneys near thatched roofs. Craftsmen attempted to lay clay tiles along ridges to slow the spread of flames. Yet in most villages, straw remained the sole choice, cheap, insulating, and forgiving. Villagers trusted it steadfastly, even when it betrayed them. Researchers question how such fragile material endured centuries of weathering. The answer lies partly in daily maintenance. Each household annually climbed roofs to patch holes, comb away moss, and tighten ropes. A thatched roof was not a one-time construction, but an ongoing relationship. One did not merely dwell beneath it, one tended it, as one would nurture life itself. Inside the cottage, you hear snow sliding down the slope, the faint hiss of it landing on muddy ground. The roof breathes with the weather, creaking as the thatch settle. You smell the mingled scent of smoke and damp straw, a fragrance that clings to your clothes, not unpleasant, but carrying the familiar earthiness of a life rooted in soil and labor. In East Anglia, a peculiar custom once flourished, placing a house minus guard talisman beneath the ridge pole. These secret talismans, woven from reeds or carved from wood, were meant to shield the home from storm's fury. Centuries later, a few charms were found, jarred yet intact, like silent prayers nestled within the old house's frame. Experts remain divided. Some trace them to pagan origins. Others call them charms of good fortune. The truth remains unverified. Yet one can easily imagine the thatcher murmuring incantations he scarcely believed in while placing the talisman. The snow fell thicker. The wind grew gentler. The thatched roofs swallowed the hissing cold, transforming the sharp howl into a low murmur. One could almost hear the house settling, adjusting its posture in its own way. The hearth crackled softly, sparks dancing towards the chimney opening, each flicker casting fleeting golden silhouettes upon the low ceiling. Outside lay pure white inside, a heart of warm, brownish smoke. Seated by the hearth, you listen to the roof whispering to itself. The air grows heavy with cooking smoke. Someone chuckles softly, a weary sound that seems brave in the darkness. You realize survival is not just about strength, but rhythm, that endless, slow, resilient mending. When you finally close your eyes, imagine morning snow melting, droplets trickling through straw to dry by noon. You see spiders weaving anew, their slender legs dancing in the smoke. Life endures, held together by slender strands of strong, stubborn faith. High above the thatched roof, life still breathes. Dawn is hazy as smoke, the pale sun struggling to rise through the frosty mist. Firelight filters through the hearth's open hearth, the embers sunk deep within the ashes, red coals humming softly beneath. You stir the hearth with a stick, watching the flames revive like a heartbeat. The room fills with the faint scent of peat and burning oak, a warm third, not bestowed. The manor's records make clear the hearth was the heart of the medieval home. It was not merely a source of heat, but the very wellspring of life. The flames cooked food, dried clothes, warmed newborns, and provided light long after sunset. Without it, there was only darkness and disease. In the depths of winter, the hearth became the sole place of possible survival. Every decision centered on sustaining its vitality. The hearth was not large, merely a shallow stone pit strewn with ashes. Smoke curled upward, swirling between the rafters before escaping through holes in the thatched roof. Sometimes the smoke lingered, thickening the air until its zombie eyes. You would cough to disperse it, then chuckle softly. Such was the way of life in those times. The walls were streaked with soot, the ceiling black as charcoal, but the warmth seeped into the bones, and that was what mattered most. Most chronicles recount how the smoke became an unwelcome yet unshakable presence. It purified the air, repelled vermin, and preserved decaying timber. Though people complained of coughs and watery eyes, they understood the hidden value of this smoky companion. It granted the home a peculiar immunity. You might wonder, in certain villages, the hearth fire never dies. Should the flames die, misfortune or death was believed imminent. Neighbors would lend a tinder of embers to reignite the hearth, embers preserved in moss miners covered clay pots to smolder. Picture that crimson gloat reversing the snowfield. The promise of warmth passed from one household to the next. Archaeological excavations have uncovered ancient hearths, signes, often bearing carved marks of crosses or small circles. Whether these were religious symbols or decorative patterns remains unknown. Some scholars suggest these markings were part of a protective ritual, intended to safeguard the flame itself in an era when fire determined life and death. It was revered as a living deity. The size and shape of hearths often signified a family's standing. Wealthy households placed large hearths within their home, spacious enough for the entire family to gather around. Poorer villages had only small pits, barely sufficient to boil a pot of soup. Yet wherever the hearth stood, it dictated the rhythm of life. Meals were timed by the duration of the wood fire, and when the last flicker of flame turned to embers, it was time for sleep. 14th-century chronicles recount a poignant tale of a village enduring bitter cold. Each household contributed their hearth fire to a great pit in the village square, where families slept side by side, their faces illuminated by a single flickering light. Whether this story is fact or legend is now impossible to verify, yet the image endures. An entire village sharing a single flame, its flickering glow piercing the frozen darkness. Historians suggest the placement of hearths influenced medieval architectural evolution. Chimney minus less dwellings required smoke to vent through central roof opening, precluding the construction of upper stories. It was only centuries later, with the advent of chimneys, that houses could rise upwards, rooms stacked like warm layers. The hearth gradually evolved into a fireplace, the flame transforming from a smoke minus filled survival to into a framed spectacle. You sit by your hearth, adding small logs as flames lap at the edges with a gentle crackle, a sound as steady and soothing as the earth's pulse. You feel the heat radiate outward, the chill retreating inch by inch. Your clasped hands glowing pink with the fire's light. Smoke spirals upward like ghostly ribbons, carrying the scent of resin, aged stews, and singed wool, composing a unique melody within the confined space. Each household has its bedtime ritual. Some carefully rake the embers toward the fire, sustaining the glow until dawn. In certain regions, this act is termed extinguishing the flame, a phrase implying a gentle strangulation. You perform it now, tracing slow circles with the ashes, feeling the warmth recede into a drowsy hum. The room grows dim yet remains alive, the air thick with comfort and the scent of soot. Early texts recount times when dried dung replaced firewood during timber shortages. You frown at the notion, yet the flame burns clean and long, leaving no residue behind, all transformed into sustenance for life. The scent, sharp at first, gradually evolves into the familiar earthy fragrance, blending wondrously with the breath of existence. As you lay upon the straw mat at night, the hearth's candlelit cast an amber hue upon the walls, shadows drifting softly across the ceiling. You feel the rhythm of the flames in your breath, while outside the gale tours at the fetch. Yet within the house all is still. You listen to the faint crackling of dying embers, the whisper of smoke slipping into the cold night air. The hearth fire sighs like a companion, sinking into slumber like a weary beast. You close your eyes, filled with gratitude, each ember a heartbeat, each flicker a promise. Winter has not yet triumphed. The hearth fire hums its ancient, faithful murmur. Mankind's most steadfast companions, its time began. Before dawn, chill seeps once more through cracks. You awaken to the faint creaking of air forced through warped beams and loose thatch. That cold lives like a cunning visitor, slipping through the narrowest gaps. Use it up, draw your cloak tighter, and trace the daub, swollen wood along the door frame, now askew in its hinges, pushing the door open. Frost flowers cascade like shimmering gauze. Historic records detail how medieval cottages battled nature. Craftsmen labored with limited tools, yet timber shrunk, earth settled, roofs sagged, floors often lay bare, trampled into mud by countless footsteps. Only the wealthier villagers laid rushes of straw, replaced when rot set in. Chill crept up from the earth like a ghost refusing eternal slumber. Closing the door, the frame groaned wearily with resonating with wind. You wedged stones beneath it, the floor beneath your feet colder than the air. Imagine frost crystal lysing beneath reeds, tiny ice crystals poised to bite your approaching toes. The air carries the damp scent of straw smoke and earth, not unpleasant, merely the authentic odor of life at the world's edge. There was once a peculiar wind-proofing trick. Villagers would stuff animal fat minus soaked wool or moss into wall crevices once hardened. It kept the biting wind at bay. Sometimes feathers or small talismans were embedded, invoking good fortune. These objects, dubbed wish plugs by folklorists, are occasionally discovered centuries later between rotting beams, tiny fossils of hope. Historical records are clear. Most farming households lived in single minus-room dwellings shared with livestock. Families huddled in one corner, while goats and chickens occupied another. Their body heat trended the air, barely tolerable. Those of slightly better means might rest on raised wooden beds, though more often folk slept directly upon strong, ice-covered floors. These served as daily workshops, dining tables, and burial grounds for livestock perishing in bitter nights. Scholars debate how people endured such conditions. Some suggest medieval bodies were more resilient, adapted through prolonged exposure. Others propose hunger and exhaustion, numbed discomfort. Whatever the reason, life persisted. People learned to layer the world, shielding themselves from the cold with habit and acceptance rather than blankets. You crouch beside the dying hearth, adding a few twigs. The flames reluctantly climb, their faint light flickering on the smoke-stained walls. The door hinges creaked with every gust, and you heard the air hum beneath the roof, imagining the thatched canopy swaying slightly, scattering snowflakes inside one landing on your cup, melting into a damp little circle. Yorkshire parish records mention an unexpected custom. Some households hung dried herbs above their doorways, believing it would calm the gales. Rosemary, mint, or sometimes garlic braided into rope, perhaps ineffective against the chill, yet they freshened the air within, lending vitality to the grey winter days. You imagine the herbs mingling with the smoke, their fragile sweetness countering the biting cold. The floorboards creaked as someone moved behind you, the uneven floorboards barely indentations of years of trampling. These scarce, precious planks were often salvaged from ruins or broken cuts. You run your fingers over one plank, your fingertips tracing the grooves carved by time and barefoot children. Some households scattered sand over their earthen floors to absorb moisture, sweeping it away each morning. A simple, practical solution, quiet and ingenious. Early builders attempted to block damp and cold with raised stone thresholds. Village ruins reveal these were constructed from field stones or fragments of old millstone. Yet even so, the chill seeped through the cracks. It always finds a way. as it always has. Stepping outside, the wind lashes your cloak like a blade. Sunlight struggles through the clouds, staining the snow a dull silver. Gazing upon the cottage, you notice each wall leans slightly, every door warped and twisted, each roof sagging under insufficient weight, yet they stand firm through habit of patching and mending, through silent resilience. Returning indoors, you sit by the hearth, examining the details that give the house its life. They sit marked above the doorframe, like ghostly wisps of smoke, the faint damp patches on the carpet, left by snow melting through the wind, brushing your skin like invisible fingers. You pull the blanket tighter around you, smiling as you think these walls hold such rich life within them, uncomfortable, perhaps, but shared nonetheless. Family huddles close, laughter and whispers softly echoing beneath the thatched roof. The cold may linger, yet familiar voices warm the space in a way no fire could ever match. You lie back on the straw mat, watching smoke drift through tiny holes in the ceiling, the last glimmer of light sinking into the embers. For a moment, you almost believe the chill has softened, simply because you've learned to coexist with it. The morning air is still and heavy, thick with the scent of lime, dust and smoke. You step outside. The manor stands at the village's edge, its pale walls catching the faint winter sunlight. Compared to the crumbling thatched cottages, it seems eternal, as if carved from the earth's very bones. You approach the wall, your palm gliding over the icy stone surface, condensation rendering it slippery, its coarse texture scraping your fingertips, yet emanating a vitality distinct from the wooden cottage behind you. The stone minus-built estates emerged after the Norman conquest, lords seeking to manifest their power and wealth through eternal structures, while peasants merely patched their mud-minus wall dwellings each year. These structures stand as a testament to defiance against time, their walls largely built from limestone or sandstone quarried from nearby hills. Ox-drawn carts labored for miles to deliver the stone, which stonemasons carved by hand, their hammering echoing across the frozen fields. As you watch the stonemasons at work, your breath rises into pour. The rhythmic cadence of chisels echoes through the air, the sound piercing the courtyard like a heartbeat. With each chip of stone dislodged, a fragment of history is peeled away. Freshly cut limestone emits an almost metallic, sharp scent. When the stonemasons pause, the orange-red glow from the brazier illuminates the unfinished wall. A curious, overlooked fact: craftsmen mixed animal hair into the lime mortar. These minute fibers enhanced adhesion, preventing cracks in the walls. The walls hardened early, a reinforcement method existing long before chemistry was understood. If one draws one's nose close, a faint animal scent can still be detected in the centuries-old mortar. Archaeological evidence reveals walls several feet thick, their interior chill never truly dissipating. The same stone that barred foes also trapped damp and cold. The room's air, a tangled web of damp stone and candle smoke, clung like a wet cloak. Nobles shivered beneath layers of furs, though fireplaces were a recent invention for long nights. The roaring flames failed to illuminate the corners. The crackling light filled the great hall, its warmth dissipating before it could reach the walls. Some scholars contended the grand hall's design prioritized ceremonial grandeur over comfort. Its soaring vaulted ceiling, while magnificent, rendered heating nearly impossible. The blazing hearth blackened the beams, yet guests still gathered around, cold hands reaching out for the faintest warmth. Candles flickered, goblets hummed, and the chill condensed into white mist in the air. You catch the scent of plaster, the dryness of powder, each stone bearing the chisel marks of its stonemason. Some symbols denote the cutter's identity: crosses, initials, miniature patterns where payment was oft unverified by counting these marks. Imagine your fingertips brushing traces sealed for centuries, each symbol whispering the hands that built this place. An intriguing piece of research: the manor archives record that the room was once draped in painted tapestries, concealing damp seepage in the walls. These fashionable hangings, depicting saints hunting, served both as decoration and insulation against the cold. Faded by time, the fabrics softened, and the echoes reverberating off the stone walls created an illusion of warmth. Historians debate were these early stone halls monuments to comfort, or edifices of pride. Some maintain their thick walls offered genuine shelter against winter's fury, others deem them icy prisons where lords indulged in splendor yet suffocated. Whatever the truth, the manor stands like a frozen heart upon the snowfields, its faint glow gilding the earth while the fields slumber. Passing through the archway into the hall, sound abruptly softens and deepened. Footsteps echo upon flagstones, the floor polished smooth by years. The faint glow of the hearth flickers across the walls, leaving trails of golden ash intertwined. Above the beams, embers fade as smoky air carries shadows, faintly tinged with salt and the rust of peat burned for years. A servant passes with a dustpan, scattered across the cold path, their movements stirring dust. In the dim light, specks glimmer like stars. One could almost feel the warmth concentrated at the hearth's heart, within the stone shell. A slow pulse of life beat. In a corner, a bundle of dried herbs hung unexpectedly. Even the Lord's Hall retained traces of superstition. Some believed rosemary warded off illness, others sought the household deity's protection. None openly questioned tradition's power, far surpassing faith and reason, even as the world sought to explain it rationally. As dusk settled, I stepped outside once more. Orange light seeped through stone walls, the faint pulse of fire behind narrow windows. The cold wind pressed against my cheeks as the manor stood like a mountain range, unassailable, patiently embodying the estate's grandeur. Not for comfort, but for endurance, not a fortress against foes, but a defiant winter, a monument to humanity's refusal to yield. Below, the village lay dormant, roofs dusted with snow, silver wisps of smoke from hearth fires rising like slender threads. He drew in deeply, letting the chill pierce his lungs. Behind him, the manor stood silent, weighty and eternal. Within, someone shifted logs. The fleeting warmth of the hearth fire flickered faintly against the endless cold. Morning mist coils across the fields as one descends from the manor towards the cluster of cottages. Behind stone walls, the Lord's Hall glows with a cold light, while ahead, smoke rises from low minus-roofed huts. Each thatched cottage crouches close to the earth, bearing the weight of winter. Faint laughter mingles with coughs, and familiar music signals the village's enduring vitality. Medieval chronicles depict England's countryside as a patchwork of extremes: the Lord's Hall and the cottage, separated by hundreds of yards, worlds apart. Manor candles and wrought iron, cottage with smoke and cabbage soup, yet both shared one truth: winter's mercy. No one pushed open the cottage, or only groans unveiled the space, revealing the cottage hundreds of yards away. The manor glows with candlelight and fine ironwork. The cottage carries the scent of wood smoke and cabbage soup. Both share one truth: the cold still holds kindness. No one pushes open the cottage, or a creak reveals a space more spacious than a modern bedroom. The walls were mud, patched under minus plastered, like the folds of a great beast's hide. The ceiling hung low, requiring one to stoop to pass beneath. In the corner, a small fire burned, smoke drifting lazily through the cracks in the ceiling. Reluctant to depart, a woman stirred the soup in the pot, the air thick with the scent of onions and barley. Archaeological evidence confirms these dwellings measured scarcely 20 feet in length. 6 or 7 family members would crowd into a single room, while livestock to goats or a cow made their quarters behind the adjacent wooden partition. Breath warmed the confined space, nearly counteracting the hearth's chill. The earthen floor, matted with straw, had softened through years of use. Folklore recounts peculiar customs. People habitually hung old shoes above doorways, believed to trap malevolent spirits attempting to enter. Centuries later, Restorers discovered these hidden chews tucked within the rafters and chimney corners of ancient houses. These silent relics offered a quiet reminder. The unseen fears were real, and the cold was the true menace. The air within the house hung thick, almost alive. Children curled up beneath coarse blankets like kittens. A mother's softly hummed song mingled with the crackling of firewood. On the smoke-stained ceiling, muffled light and shadow danced across the dim, hazy walls. An eerie stillness enveloped every utilitarian object. Historical records note that peasant furniture was fashioned from whatever was at hand. Balanced planks served as table, barrel hoops as stools, hollow tree trunks as beds. The most treasured possession was the iron pot, passed down through generations, sustaining the household's very lifeblood. Cooking meals, boiling water for washing, holding medicinal broths. Scholars question the distinction between aristocratic and peasant existence, as historical records reveal their daily hardships were identical: relentless cold and hunger wherever miners present. Even those in manor houses slept fully clothed, and kings themselves lamented the chill of their palaces. Though humble, cottages retained heat more readily in their compact spaces. The warmth of grand halls remained relative. Huddled by the hearth, feeling the heat's caress on hands, smoke stinging eyes, the stew's aroma stirring the stomach, a woman's gentle smile as she stirs the wooden spoon, tracing slow circles. Steam swirls upward, firelight reflecting the goat's gentle humming and soft stamping of hooves. Life intertwined with straw, practical and intimate. Meals served on polished trays beneath carved beam. Dinner consists of a single pot shared by all. Warmth passed between wooden spoons and fingers. The small dwelling fills with rich human warmth. Laughter, cough, low murmurs, and prayers. Bread slices pass between palms, every crumb precious. Legend has it that villagers guarding the fire would softly whistle, believing it could rouse the flames. Now a low whistle is attempted, its sound barely audible. A child glimpses and chuckles, the sound mingling with the crackle of wood and a sigh of wind. Outside the thatched cottage, a small world becomes a world of its own. Stepping outside again, the air is like a blade. The manor stands silent on the hill. Farmhouses cluster like birds. Livestock huddle for warmth. Every household shares the horizon. Smoke and frost just beginning to appear. The tears of existence. The comforting distance. The mutual warmth. The sustenance on each other. As dusk deepened, snowflakes drifted once more, like pale ash settling upon the roof, draping noble halls and cottage huts alike in a white veil. In that instant, every dwelling in the valley stood equal. In the cold night, hearth fires flickered faintly behind shuttered windows. Tiny human hearts continued to beat through the endless winter. The cold wind carried the faint scent of damp earth. Kneeling beside a half-minus-built wall, I glimpsed the woven patterns of mud strips. The clay itself seemed delicate, having weathered countless winters. It was undeniably a gift, a harmonious design, a testament to humanity's need for natural resources. My palm traces the surface, feeling the texture of the weave. Layers of hazel rods interlocked, mud slurry coating them. The rough texture of survival bearing witness to countless winters of vigil. Archaeological discoveries reveal wattle and daub construction flourished in medieval England, requiring sawmills, stone quarries, and craftsmanship. Walls born of local soil, woven from supple branches into upright poles, forming a grid-like fabric. Clay, straw, cowed and water compacted into the joints, hardening to an extraordinary surface. Here the willow branches creak softly as the young man bends and shapes them. The work rhythm is gentle weaving, pressing smooth, pauses mingling the earthy scent with the faint sweetness of straw. Women follow, pressing the mud, their fingers coated in brown clay. Working in the cold wind keeps them warm, their movements carrying a quiet urgency. The walls dry by nightfall, cracking with the morning frost. Ancient guild records often mention this method, continued for centuries. Simple and efficient. The wattle walls can be repaired endlessly when cracks appear. They are simply filled. Generations live, aged, fell ill, and passed away within these walls, which work continually reshape, breathing the seasonal rhythms of winter. Rural lore records peculiar details craftsmen mixed egg whites and ale into the mud, claiming it made the walls smoother and stronger. The truth remains uncertain, but images emerge of villagers pouring precious ale, the warmth of mud versus the richness of beer. A battle of priorities. The mixture was essential. Superstition, craft, faith defining the building's survival. Excavations at numerous ancient settlements confirm walls were plastered with lime, their bright coating reflecting light to make interiors appear more spacious and clean, eliminating mold and pests. In sunlight, the pale walls shimmered, rendering even the humblest thatched cottage almost sacred. Researchers attribute the structure's endurance through wind, rain, and snow to their resilient framework, rather than wind resistance, much like trees swaying gently in the breeze, allowing branches to withstand storms and dwellings to endure harsh winters. Imperfect living entities, integrated into vibrant natural landscape. Nurture, shelter and build home. Touching the wool once more. Dry clay fragments flake from my fingers, revealing the woven patterns of branches beneath. Each undulating trace was meticulously planned. The hazel wood, smooth and cool, faintly echoes summer's verdure. I imagine gathering branches, stripping bark, snowflakes settling on shoulders as one bends in labor. The village hums with labor. Someone carries a grass basket. Children bundle frozen earth. Hearth fires melt ice. Dogs sniff dung heaps. Tails wag merrily. Laughter mingles with toil, carried on the wind. An ordinary scene, almost forgetting winter's perilous season. Each scoop of earth, each woven strand, is a small defiance against the cold. In the corner of an abandoned hut, a curious discovery reveals handprints pressed into the mud wall, likely left by children helping their parents build. These imprints remain distinct after a century, telling a story of intimate connection. The human need for touch leaves its mark in the earth. Daylight fades. Newly laid walls reflect the twilight's last glow. Sunset casts shadows upon the damp, darkening mud walls. Woven patterns catch golden threads. Mist rises, moisture meets the cold wind. Stepping back to gaze upon the beautiful resilience, family labor begins to pack tools away. Hands washed in ice minus cold water. Laughter cuts across mud minus street faces. Hard bread is shared. Walls stand tall, humble yet steadfast. An eternal presence, enduring long enough to withstand the world's endless winters of questioning. Gazing at the last halo of light vanishing beyond the horizon, the village gradually falls silent. The murmur of the newly lit hearth, the night wind gliding along the fresh walls. Yet it cannot coax a smile, approaching the wall to feel its warmth. One realizes its fragility. This wall is a living thing, and like stone walls, it never bends, breathes, resilient. The first raindrops fall. The morning light whispers. A sudden clatter wakens all things. Water glides over thatch, tapping the mud walls like fingertips skimming air. Damp chill fills the air, mingled with the scent of wet straw and hearth smoke. The cock protests the weather, his crow swallowed by mist, tugging cloak tighter. I look up. The roof groans under its burden as rain pours down, rushing down the slope. Historical records reveal the ingenious practical design of medieval English roofs. Steep gables transformed ancient cottages into sculptural masterpieces, allowing ice and rain to slide swiftly away, protecting the fragile thatch beneath. Shallower roofs would sink under heavy downpours. The sharp angles created a natural defense against water movement, warding off decay. Stepping outside, icy raindrops splashed against the face. Village rooftops glistened, animal hides shimmering in the shadows. Each roof discharged rain differently, shaped by craftsmanship and maintenance, some humming softly, others trickling like fine threads, still others tapping like shallow drums. The entire village became a living instrument, playing the weather's melody. The old carpenter's notebook records a curious observation. Roofers, adhering to local superstition, avoided felling timber on specific days, firmly believing that angering the forest spirits would lead to future leaks. A blend of coincidence and wisdom. These meticulously constructed roofs endured through generations. Picture the craftsman pausing in the woods, murmuring words of reverence to the trees before sawing the beams that would eventually cradle family lives. The scent of rain mingled with hearth smoke evoked ancient airs. Surface water dripped from every eave, pooling into muddy puddles. Villagers trudged heavily through the drizzle, carrying buckets, covering wood piles, checking the tightness of roof ropes. Falling raindrops served as tests. People knew a single weak point could bring ruin. Monastic archives record medieval craftsmen employing diverse roofing materials in affluent regions. Alongside thatch, wooden aisles and stone slabs required sturdy beam supports, while church-led roofs gleamed with a muted silver sheen in the rain. Most opted for the light, readily available thatch, reeds, and heather materials, both forgiving unpractical, repaired when leaking, replaced when decayed. They built the perfect human-centered structures. Architectural historians ponder medieval roof design, perhaps the crystallis isdane of wisdom passed down through generations of villagers. They built instinctively, their creations bearing witness to the laws of survival. British farmhouses weathered centuries of storms, their original thatchers learning to listen to the rain. Huddled beneath the eave, watching water weave through strath ibers, its glass minus like flow hypnotically steady and soothing. Inside, muffled laughter and the clatter of wooden spoons scraping bowls. The roof shields warm murmurs from the world. Above, the grey sky stretches endlessly. A rather touching custom involves placing small bundles of fresh flowers and herbs at the highest point of the roof, symbolizing gratitude and blessings for its completion. In the village, a single wheat ear is tied to the ridge to honor the harvest. It is precisely this that allows the roof to endure for centuries. People have discovered withered, fragile bouquets hidden within the layers of thatch, reaching out to catch a few drops of rainwater, cool and crisp, trickling from the edge of the thatch. Villagers oft uncollected rainwater in wooden barrels for washing or brewing beer. Newly thatched roofs were regarded as the purest source of water, the straw filtering out impurities and misfortune. Watching droplets fall while washing hands, the grime vanished instantly. As the morning rain subsided, a fine mist hung in the air like silk threads. The village lay tranquil, its roofs gleaming with a damp metallic sheen. Chimneys rose and wispy, pale, languid smoke. Suddenly, the entire settlement seemed to rest upon the sloping angles and curved materials of its roof. This was humanity's answer to dwelling beneath a ceaselessly weeping sky. Within the thatched cottage, warmth thickened the air. The hearth crackled as water dripped through the smoke hole. A faint smile touched the lips, knowing the roof leaked. Content in small comforts, the drip minus spam below listened to the plop minus plop of water. The sound strangely soothed, a reminder that life still thrived outside. As night fell, the rain intensified. Raindrops drummed upon the thatch like rhythmic beats, tucking the quilt tightly round my shoulders. I closed my eyes. The roof groaned, the wind murmured, and water flowed in gurgling streams. The storm seemed to sing a song of survival, echoing through the straw and timber. The melody of sleep rain mingled with a slow heartbeat. The fire crackling. After the storm passes, the world remains saturated. Chimneys bow low. The village wrapped in a grey blanket. Stepping outside, the ground feels slightly warm beneath my feet. The thawed earth. The rooster's clear crow, it brings a knowing smile. The air carries sodden dust. The damp grass heavy, alive. Manorial records note medieval hamlets clustered for convenience, yet fortified against raiders. Cold walls lean together, Houses tilt side by side to block drafts and trap warmth. Each cottage a minute breath of the Colossus's respiration. Unintended architecture born of necessity. Habits distortion, design's variation. Wandering through narrow lanes. Houses shoulder to shoulder. Damp walls with gaps barely wide enough for two to pass. The air carries a faint smoky scent. Vegetable scoops. Livestock. An infant's cry somewhere. Sounds echoing between wooden beams. Roof rafters hang high overhead, almost touching the walls, as if the village stands only by holding hands. Parish records reveal curious details. Villagers sharing walls. Neighbors divided by a single timber beam. Two households sharing a wooden frame. Saving timber a product of time that fosters peculiar intimacy. The coughs and laughter from next door are distinctly audible. Privacy becomes a luxury. Warmth shared. Archaeological excavations reveal medieval settlements where houses faced inward towards a shared central green. In winter, bonfires blazed as night watchmen kept vigil. Some slept while the firelight danced across the walls encircling the hut, forming a square. A giant communal hearth drew people together to share news, mend tools, exchange favors, and seek light in the darkness. Scholars ponder how intimacy shapes the spirit. English rural life is said to foster cooperative resilience, yet breed tension and gossip. Realities exist where each lives at their own pace, where goodwill clashes with fertile soil. Winter quarrels soften shared existence. Pausing at the old woman's cottage, the door ajar, a faint scent of baking bread drifts in. A hand brushes flour. Within the small clay oven's dough, flames dance. Bread bakes crisp, its crust crackling. A steaming slice is offered, its aroma pure and sweet. A smile's breath condenses into a wisp of cloud, vanishing upon the roof. Records tell of communal bread ovens shared among households, used in rotation to keep the fire burning. After baking, people would rest nearby, enjoying the lingering warmth. When the hearth grew quiet, neighbors joined the eternal battle against the cold. This peculiar custom spread across the countryside. Woven mats covered doors and windows on cold nights. Families lay across doorways to block the chill. Wealthier households hung thick tapestries for the same purpose. Simplicity reigned supreme, touching the coarse mats. Warmth flowed from within. The faint scent of smoke lingered, mingling with the aroma of woolen embers. Note the winding lanes, the gnarled old trees, the straight well. At the bend, cottages cluster, their roofs nearly touching. The air is noticeably warmer, the mist from breath is thin. Imagine the entire village like a cloak wrapped around warmth, save for one household. Children dash past walls, laughter echoing. A lad shoulders a rag bound mocked orch friends follow, shouting half remembered sermon lines. Sound fills the narrow lane, reverberating between houses. The whole village laughs. As dusk falls, smoke rises from chimneys, long ribbons drifting towards woodland paths. A lingering glow of bonfires flickers indoors. Slowly, one listens to the chorus of life coughs, the clatter of bowls and plates, the soft hum of a lullaby. Sounds fold into the patchwork resilience of existence. Suddenly, one understands warmth is the very essence of medieval England. Hearths and roofs are like a product of intimacy. Villagers build their homes, each structure a community, the bedrock of existence. In the corner, cottage, walls press close to neighbors than partitions. Hear a baby's sigh, a woman's soft hum. Sounds bring solace. By the faint hearth light, leaning against the wall feels warmer. The life of materials pulses gently beyond the walls. Frost and snow creep across the roof, linking the sleeping village. Beneath the thin silver night, the cold is cruel. Here, the warmth breathed belongs to everyone. Morning light slips through slatted shutters, golden threads slicing through mist-laden air. Outside, the soft rhythm of hammering echoes patient, measured. The carpenter has begun, tools laid neatly upon cloth mallet. Narrow saw, Iron nails. Each precious step counted, each process clear, eyes fixed upon the shape of oak beam, hands moving with ease and confidence born of repetition. Medieval architectural texts record extensively that carpenters were honored craftsmen. In villages, the skills to build houses, barns, carts, and bridges were matters of survival. Mistakes meant ruin. Mortise and tenon joints were precise, wooden wedges secure, hands supported roofs and walls against the raging wind. Thud, the axe blade cleaves the timber, pale shavings drift like feathers over frozen earth. Fresh oak scent wafts through the air. The carpenter hums a tune, breath matching the work's rhythm. His focused face, gazing at the grain, exhales mist that condenses upon the wood. Captivating details. Guild records reveal carpenters carve minute decorations within beams, secret patterns unseen by peers. Faces, animals, signatures perse in a imprint left behind. Centuries later, restorers uncover these silent greetings hidden within walls and rafters. Though the craftsmen themselves are long gone, archaeological studies reveal magnificent timber frames in medieval houses, employing mortise minus tenon joints secured only by wooden wedges and iron nails. This construction grants the structure resilience against tectonic shifts and violent storm. Craftsmanship demands absolute precision and tight interlocking woodcraft. Walls shift, arches rise, sense the equilibrium as the hammer strikes. Scholars debate the geometry of medieval frameworks. Traditional mathematics, honed through years of a carpenter's eye, replaced geometry with experience. Neat triangular trusses rose from the ground. Scholars' drawings reveal a sense of perfection born of symmetry, confirmed by the pillars. Carpenters nailed to drill holes. Bowed rills hum softly. Tool sounds blend with rustling leaf. Work progresses slowly overhead, urgency intertwined with pauses. Wiping sweat, testing mortise and tenon joints. Rough fingertips touch cracked timber. Steady construction, the rhythm of wood. Village roof trusses. Time, the builders harbor peculiar superstitions. The first beam bears silver coins for blessings, while poorer homes substitute stone carvings or dried flowers. These customs reveal how far architectural faith diverges from reality. The carpenter fixes his gaze upon the work, his eyes narrowing with the light. Faint black carvings emerge upon the smooth, pale timber. The next stroke of the saw crackled, filling the air with sparks from splintering timber. The creak of cart wheels and the clamor of villagers hauling building materials. The clang of hammers mingled with the whirring of wood being cut at joints, binding people together and weaving the fabric of winter survival. Estate records detail the carpenter's wages, coins, grain, lodging, clothing. In temporary dwellings, beds nestle beneath unfinished roof. Craftsmen forge the warmth required, while villagers repay kindness through skilled labor. The scent of sap fills the nostrils as carpenters apply a thin coat of pine resin to be mends for moisture protection. In the morning light, the dark resin glistens with viscous fragrance, faintly wafting the smoky, preservative scent of pine. Wiping hands, smiles bloom on aprons. Today's labor. The final storm has passed. As assistants hoist beams into place, there swells. Deep shouts echo timber groans. The frame rises slowly, catching the dawn light. Its skeleton touches the sky. The final tenon slides into its mortise. The carpenter strides past, nodding with satisfaction. Dusk descends. The structure is complete. The setting sun casts a melancholy glow. The scent of wood lingers, mingled with sweat and laughter. The carpenter sits by the fire, sharpening his tool. His movements are slow yet proficient. His words were quiet, pride lingering. The house's skeleton bore generations of warmth. On the journey home, faint clouds drifted across the sky. The wind ceased. The village fell silent, gazing towards the horizon. The framed silhouette stood out, a sturdy, simple shelter, promises carved into the oak. They smiled, snow minus laden, The beams return, groaning softly yet standing firm. Memories shaped by palms, dawn breaks, grey mist, faint sun's chill, village still. A sense of strangeness creeps in. The air carries a fresh scent, a metallic sharpness of charcoal smoke. Following the scent, a nearby cottage. A crowd gathers, bricklayer and blacksmith, murmuring in debate, stacking freshly fired bricks. A sudden realization, gazing at the emerging outline of a chimney. Existing records indicate chimneys gradually appeared in late 13th century English homes. Domestic fires drifted from open hearths towards roof openings. Inspiration sparked between unglazed window frames. The concept of a vertical passage revolutionized architectural form. People gathered to form a household, lighting fires within central wall spaces. The partitioned rooms grew warmer, the air crisper. Stonemasons chiseled brick edges, testing hardness with sharp, rhythmic echoes. Nearby walls bore slightly uneven bricks hand-mined as molded clay cottages glowed in deep terracotta, faintly radiating kiln warmth. The metallic scent of blacksmith stools mingled with the briny tang of damp mortar, while gritty sand mingled in the wind. Curious guild ledgers record the first chimneys were symbols of luxury, heralding modernity status. Villagers marveled as slender wisps of smoke rose from homes, curling over broken roofs, this minor miracle of invention separating smoke from daily life. Archaeological evidence bears witness to gradual transformation in prosperous towns. Chimneys grew in scale, their stone-built bell-shaped tops halting descending air currents. Farmhouses still used open hearths, yet through generations, bricklayers' precise brickwork sparked curiosity and their flow. Scholars debate the chimney's origins. England champions Norman influence, while others propose independent evolution. An inevitability of architectural and social change. Chimneys granted privacy, partitioned rooms, and contained hearths. Families slipped apart, breathing easier, their dreams no longer suffocated by soot. Crouching craftsmen built upwards, mortar layers compressed, trowels creaking. The chimney rose like a proud, slender pillar, promising the grey sky. Villagers murmured approval yet cast skeptical glances, whispering of trapped smoke's fury. The household ghosts. Old habits die hard, wondrous beliefs, guardian spirits drifting with the smoke. Villagers resisted capping the chimney top, fearing it might block the passage for unseen guests. Architectural progress existed with superstition. At noon, the structure was complete. The bricklayer wiped coal dust from his face, leaning forward with pride. A boy climbed onto the roof, shouting as the chimney belched out crisp, cool air. The crowd murmured cheers, a mix of wonder and doubt. Inside, the difference is immediate. Air crystalline, hearth blazing, currents drawing fresh air. Seated by the fire, deep breaths sting the eyes, flames dance. Orange brickwork patterns seeming to trace the evolution of the structure. The family chronicle records the chimney's reshaping. Furniture rearranged, hearth drawn near, benches, tables, and beds gathered closer. The interior warmed. Warmth falters habits. People linger indoors, reading quietly, praying, recounting winter's adversaries beneath the steady glow. Steadfast through the season, gazing up the chimney shaft, watching sparks spiral into the darkness, like fleeting starlight fading. At dawn, smoke rose outside, thin as soap, elegant and serene. The bricklayer gathered his tools, gazed long upon his work, murmuring like a prayer. Bricks absorbed the flame, solidifying into strength. I understand now. This passage is both guardian and the bond linking human warmth to the endless cold. In the crisp twilight air, a cottage glimmers faintly, the newly built chimney puffs smoke. The dusky village seems older, yet strangely rejuvenated. Innovation breathes life into ancient bones. Walking home beneath the horizon, slender wisps of smoke mark an unfinished climb. Sitting in the thatched cottage around a humble fire, I imagine a clean column of smoke, carrying the haze away, breathing in the mist. A faint hiss within the mist. Burning wood. Change begins with a single spark. The snow ceases, leaving a silent brightness that stings the eyes. The first village glows, roofs dusted with frost, noticing the shimmering ice crystals. Window panes. The light from a neighboring cottage casts a dim, uneven glow. Realizing it is glass. Glass. Drawing nearer. Peering curiously. Window. Thin sheets. Horn scraped and ground to translucent. Historical records. The Lord's inventory. Genuine glass panes. Rare in medieval England. Reserved for cathedrals. Monasteries. The wealthiest manors. Horns. The finest substitute. Auction soap. Flattened. Shaved thin. Light passing through. Bestowing upon the room a pale. Waxen glow. Dim yet steady. Touching the surface. Feeling slightly greasy. Warm fingers against the cold. Sunlight filtered through the window. Golden air softened. Shadows gentler. Contours softer. Children sat. Mending nets. Mending toys. In the dim light. The scent of beeswax. Smoke from wood. A faint sweetness mingling in the air. Heard the sound of the wind. A soft rustle. The keratin no US membrane. Perfect. On a chilly winter's day. Kindness. A rare 16th-century craftsman. The crowd sands the horn window panes, applying butter for clearer fit. A fleeting moment. The world outside grows brighter. Early spring arrives, imagining the family's delight at color after weeks of gloom. Archaeological findings reveal that before horn panes, thin vellum and oil minus soaked linen were used to seal window gaps. These materials blocked the cold wind while allowing faint light to seep through, blending the scent of oil with cooking smoke in the corners of the house. When the window shutters opened, the smoke would drift out through the gaps in the roof and door, cherishing this small sliver of light. The horn and oilcloth window panes symbolized the belonging of home. Enduring through the years, historians trace the emergence of small paned windows to early 15th-century English villages, later disseminated through monasteries. Though they remained rare during the Tudor period, scholars recognize the symbolic significance windows bear hope, sustaining connections to the outside world, casting a faint glow upon hearts frozen in winter's grip. Gazing upon the balls minus eye window panes, watching light and shadow shift, clouds drifting, ripples on ice, faint silhouettes beyond, the figure of a wood carrier, the soft tread of a dog's bark. Outside the window, a dreamlike haze, erasing the world's harshness, transforming it into art in an instant. Superstition lingers in the village morning light streaming through the window lattice, invites solace. A belief so ingrained it becomes routine. Shutters are closed to lock in warmth, fearing wandering spirits. At dawn's first light, the brave lift the wooden panels to capture the morning sun, believing its light can fortify the soul. The carpenter crafts the frame, oak and beech planed into square timber, horn minus shaped panels inlaid with fine lead strips, wooden slats fitted tighter, minor flaws like scratches, babbles, thin gaps, overlapping fragments, rough craftsmanship and delicate imperfections, stories born, striving to adapt. Within, a maiden races outlines, breath condensing on horn minus inlaid panes, a sun minus smiling face fades, golden flashes fleeting, feeling fragile tenderness, human instinct adorns me grey hope, window frames shift with sound, the room opens to air, a softer void, the world grows quieter, breath is heard, crackling flames, gentle dripping, melting snow air, the sense of stillness. The house takes a deep breath, deciding to hold fast. In the wealthy manor, leaded glass panes, frames interlocked, window shutters flicker, candlelight casts patterns, tiny veins on colored walls. Visitors marvel, touch the surface, reverence. The cottager's horn minus shaped window achieves sacredness. gives form to light, transforming survival into beauty. Stepping outside, glimpsing cottage window frames, small shutters briefly open, daytime smoke curls, rising gently, staining the snow minus white, hazy air, damp wood ash, stroll, life's tenacity, twilight soft glow seeping through window frames, pale gold, outside the window like lamp snow, a moment's flicker, turning to fire flame, understanding, people, time, dwelling, darkness, carrying light, the dwelling, the sky, forgetting, generous gift, the air pungent, endures the scent, a life-smoked peat, animal fats, damp wool wrapped, a moment, the door opens, rich fragrance soothes memory, warmth breathes, understanding survival, winter, medieval England, survival, world, scent, story, enduring, 14th century household accounts daily fuel peat, wood, dried dumb lingering fragrance peat, earthy scent rich, oaks fresh, almost sweet, fodder burning, steady flame smelt clinging to garments day after day opening the door, scent drifts through village lanes carrying burning maps, seated near the fire, smoke lazily coiled, escaping through wall holes, years of soot marks, reading time, layered darkness, tree rings, floorboards, scattered rush mats, replaced, weekly herbs, scent, delicate, cut rich, breath, fresh, filling the room, blending herbs, is commonplace lavender sage reed mat spread across noble estates, a tradition that spreads to humble cottages. Peasants gather reeds, locally trampled to release oils, a secret fragrance, musty earth smoked earthen floors, insulation transformed into scented carpets changing with the season. Curious tales abound of burning or engined apple peels over hearth, filling rooms with sweet warmth, or inches were air, traded across regions. A single peel tossed onto embers would perfume the entire dwelling. Villagers believed the scent pleased household spirits and enhanced health. Listening to the sizzle of peel meeting fire, a modest luxury. Archaeological research reveals traces of tallow and beeswax across walls and ceilings, hinting at the scent of burning candles. The tart, smoky scent of tallow and animal fats contrasted sharply with the cleaner burn of more precious beeswax candles, their wicks blackened by smoke. A subtle sweetness filling the room was markedly different. Poor households were filled with acrid smoke, while the air in wealthier homes was as sweet as honey. Experts debate the intense odors tolerated yet cherished in daily life, yet despised by modern people. Safe smoke and firelight, warmth and foul odor. Wet wool drying by the hearth signified weathering the storm's way. A deep breath revealed all earth, timber, firewood, tobacco, herbs, the faint fragrance of animal hides, the concentrated warmth of life, the deeper and denser the flames, the heavier and more imperfect the air filling the lungs. Yet this very imperfection was the very proof of vitality sustained. Quaint medieval household manuals record lighting beer by the hearth ensures a pleasant aroma, proclaiming that gentle smoke invites blessings. The air crackles over scorching coals, bringing fleeting joy to chilly mornings. Food aromas blend into the pot. Steam bellows from simmering stews. The air thick with the scent of onions, barley, and herbs. The spoon dips into the bubbling broth, where fragrance mingles with smoke, permeating the rush mats, clothing, and fabrics, saturating the entire hearth. Sit down and the scents tell the story. The rhythm of life here, the morning ashes and damp grass, the sweetness of afternoon cooking, the richer larded wool at night, the sense of changing seasons. The folk of the hearth learn to read the air's calendar. They grasp the endurance of existence, the cold solace hidden within thick smoke layers. Flames hiss, reeds crackle, earthy scents billow like cloaks. As night deepens, frost creeps across window pane. Inside, peat and dirt grow more potent. Close your eyes. Breathe. Let warmth fill your chest. The air is heavy, imperfect yet vivid, whispering of shelter and memory as the house breathes. The wind shifts abruptly. Hear the smoke twist and drift. Straight lines of snow mark the blunted ridges. Trampled hoofprints, boots, the cottage's stirrings. Feel the breath. At the corner, the source. Pigs content, half minus asleep, curled in straw. Low wooden planks, soft grunts mingling with crackling flames. The air thick. Household chores, farm work, 13th minus century documents. Peasants sharing dwelling, livestock, winter livestock precious. Value, loss, frost, thieves, concealment, benefit, body heat, sustaining, warmer cottage, fire management, English villages, pigs, sheep, chicken, calves, coldest months, master, watching over the pigs, tossing and turning to sleep. A faint, steaming glow, warmth, filling the air, a living layer of insulation. Goats, in the corner, lazily chewing old straw, the tinkling of bells, hearing the rhythmic breathing of cattle, slow heartbeats, the animal's breath, a quiet, comfortable family atmosphere. Curious medieval chronicles children, lulled by bovine breaths deep. Steady rhythm soothes, the long night wind claws at walls. Legend says sleeping cattle grant strength. Morning adage, superstition and practicality often blur. Archaeological evidence reveals animal shed structures and domestic layout remnants. Within ancient ruins, sleeping mats laid beside raised hearths are visible. Rough planks and woven reeds partitioned humans from livestock. Straw minus covered floors absorbed heat. Waste replaced fill simplicity with refinement. Scholars weigh hygiene demands against human minus animal cohabitation. Positing disease stems from cold, not warmth. Warmth saves lives, not endangering survival. Imagining winter's care theories merely. A room, faint breaths. Pig snorts softly. Chickens chirp faintly. Perches shift. The hearth crackles. Warmth touching skin and souls. The intense presence reminds us of shared air. Hay smoke. An unsettling modernity deeply ingrained in humanity. Estate archives record near the livestock corner hut. Warm breaths from animals near the door drift indoors. Gazing towards the corner, animals lie down, sensing frost melt. Against the wall, the white light flickers, warmth bursting forth the second hearth fire. Curious custom, northern regions whisper animal lullabies. Night minus time murmurs of villagers' blessings and thanks to oxen and pigs. Believing kind words bring peace. They softly chant, gentle syllables. Takes grunts of agreement, turning over. Air grows faintly warm. Family gathered round the hearth. Father stoked the fire. Wife mended torn sleeves. Children giggled. Hens leapt over flames, as if yearning for mates. Animals gazed at the natural pyre with quiet curiosity, attuned to the nocturnal rhythm of home. Households meticulously recorded every trough and door built, every animal fed. Cold air drawn into barns and dwellings. Dimly visible, the human and animal worlds breathed in unison. Close your eyes for a moment. Listen to the layered sounds: life, crackling logs, murmuring cattle, whispering wind, steady breathing, the slumbering. The human chorus understands warmth, the intimacy of fire. Living bodies slowly exchange air. Comfort, species. The hearth's faint glow, the cottage dim, tucked deep within the blanket. Feeling the tremor, animals turn in their sleep. The air carries the scent of earth. Primitive truth. Outside, frost crystallizes. Thatch breathes. Misty clouds. Soft and warm. Perfect warmth. Pure to the extreme. Heavy eyelids. Pigs bellow. Goats sigh. Black chickens cluck. Sinking into dreams. Half minus light. Half minus dark. Knowing this night. Frozen sleep. Warmth. Intentions encircle. Breaths hum softly. Dreams flow.